Earlier on, I went to amazon.co.uk to look for something to watch. And when I saw this layout, I got really excited because I noticed that we had a carousel here. And also we had some, what seemed to look like posts. So I thought to myself, how about I try and recreate this in Divi 5? So this is what I was able to create. I know it's not exactly the same, but the layout is close enough. So I want to show you step by step how I was able to create this using Divi 5. And before we get started, I'd also like to talk about my course. It's called Divi 5 Mastery. So if you head over to diviuniversity.com and then you head over here to courses, you're going to notice the course is right here. It's already it has 686 students. It's only $27. It's on a 50% discount. So go ahead and sign up. And also, if you're not a member of Divi University, go ahead and sign up. This is a community of Divi users. It's absolutely free to join. All right, so now that we have that out of the way, this is the layout that we're going to replicate, or at least build in this tutorial. So let's get started. Now, the first thing I did was go to this website. It's called pexels.com, and I searched for my images, downloaded them, and then over here now on my website, if we go to my media library, you'll notice that these are the images that I added. So you need to start off with really, really nice images. Okay, so after I added the images to my media library, the next step was to create my blog posts. So here you can see all my posts. It's all 4 of them. Now, entering information in your posts, you don't need to go into the builder itself. You can just go into your normal editor, enter your title and your description. And what's important here is also to add your image. Finally, before we start building this layout, there is also one thing that I did is to come over here to the categories, and I just renamed my category to latest, okay? Because by default, it's called uncategorized. And of course, that doesn't look really nice. But if you want to add more categories, you can always add more categories here. All right, so let's start by creating a brand new page. So I'm going to come over here to pages and then click on add page. So let's call this page layout Amazon. But of course, you can name this page whatever you want. Next, we're going to say use Divi Builder. And I'm not sure about this. I think this is a bug. I'm just going to delete this module here. And now we can start from scratch. Now, as we're building this, I'm going to be using SiteKrafter, which is my Divi 5 framework. It just makes me build much faster, and also I'll have a lot of consistency. However, you can follow step by step and achieve exactly the same layout if you do inline editing, which is the normal way to design using Divi. Okay, so let's start designing our layout. So I'm going to start off by clicking here on add new row. I'm going to add a single column, and in here I'm going to add my group carousel. All right, so now that I have my group carousel here, it's very important that we know exactly where we are, because it can be quite confusing when you work with this group carousel. So what I normally do is I come over here to the layers and open the layers. So here you can see everything that is happening. So what you want to do is to add items into the group. Okay, this is very, very important. So right now I'm in my group. And let me add a text module, because that's what I need to start off with. There we go. Now you notice that this is outside my group. I may need to drag it into the group. Sometimes you may also want to use the wireframe view, okay, to see where you are. So in this case, I'm just going to drag it into position. There we go. So now it is in the group. So everything I'm going to add now is going to be under this. Okay, I know the UI is a bit tricky here, so let's add another module below. So again, this is going to be a text module. Now let's have a look at the Amazon. So we've got our text here, we have our description. Now it's a button. Okay, so let's go back. So we need a button and some text as well. Okay, so back over here, we're going to come in And let's add a module below. And this is going to be a button. And finally, I'm going to need an icon list. So I'm going to click on this plus button here and search for my icon list. Here we go. And while we're here, I'm just going to delete these two because I know I'm only going to need one item. So I have all my elements so far. The next step now is to add my image in the background. But before we do that, we need to turn this into a loop because that is very, very important. So we're going to come back over here to our group and go to our loop here and then activate it. So do you notice that I have these 4 little dots here? So that means there's 4 items in, okay? But we haven't stylized it yet and we haven't told the loop what information is there to pull from. So what we're going to do now is we are going to now assign certain attributes here. So I'm going to start off with my group here. So in the group, we need to go into the background. So I'm just going to come over here, scroll all the way down. Oh, there we go. Here's the background. And in the background, I'm going to add a background image, but I'm not going to add a static image here because I want this to pull all my featured images. So I'm going to click here on dynamic content and then make sure that it's loop featured image. There we go. So you can see my image has been added, which is really, really good. And I know it's going to cycle through like that. Okay, great. So now that I have at least the basic elements that I need, the next step now is to adjust my sizes. So I'm going to go to my row settings here, go to design, layout, and first of all, I am going to set my sizing here to 100%. The reason why I'm doing this is because I want my carousel to be edge to edge. Okay, so let's go ahead and add 100%, hit enter, and now I am edge to edge. Brilliant. The next thing I may want to do here is to adjust my height. So I think I can adjust my height in here. Let's just take a look. So I'm going to go back to my row settings. In fact, you know what? It's the carousel that we adjust the height on. So we're going to go into the group settings, design, and then we're going to go to sizing. So let's try and set it up here. So I'm going to go to my height specifically and set this to 70 VH. There we go. So now I have my full image and so far so good. Okay. With this now, you notice that we have all our text and it's all the way up there. So we may need to do some adjustments here. So what I'm going to do next is to go to layout and I want everything to come to the bottom. So you can see here on justify content, if we bring it all the way down, it is much, much better. Yep. Brilliant. Now there's also one thing I need to do here while I'm on the group. I also want to check if I can do some adjustments to my image. So I'm going to come over here and I want my image to be centered. Okay, let's see if we can center, bottom center. Yes, I think this is much better because at least it shows some information here. I wish we could just go in here and adjust it manually. You know, that's something that perhaps elegant themes may want to add. Okay, so now that I have my basic setup, the next step now is to work on my padding because everything is way too close to the edge. So let's go again to the advanced attributes, and then I am going to add my CSS class. And then over here on the attribute name, I need to name this class as well. And now I can add my padding. So I'm going to go with large, and you can see something happened here. So it's not good enough. So we're going to try extra large. Okay, so we're going to go with padding extra large. Now, if you don't have SiteKrafter and you'd like to add padding, here's how you need to do it. With the group selected, you need to come over here to design, and then you want to go to spacing, and this is where you want to add your padding to all the sides. But my padding is going to be fluid, which means it adjusts on different screen sizes. Okay, now let's go in and make further adjustments. So I'm coming back over here to my main text. So we want to make sure that this is our title. Okay, so I'm going to come over here, go to my dynamic, and then I'm going to say loop post title. Great. So now that I have my loop post title, I want to stylize it right away. So with the text selected, I'm going to come over here to advanced, and then I'm going to go to attributes. Now over here on the attributes, I still have to enter my classes manually, or at least the attribute manually. And then I'm going to name it class. And then over here, I want to give this a custom heading. So I'm going to say SK heading, and then I'm going to go with 7XL. So you can see it's nice and big. Next, I want to change the font weight. So I'm going to say font, let's go with 800. Okay, font 800. And then finally, it's the color. So I'm going to say text, and it's gray. Let's go with gray 100. I don't like using pure white when I'm designing, so this gray 100 should work fine. All right, great. So now that I have my main heading here for my slider, I'm going to close out of here, and then we're going to go into the description text. So I'm going to select it, and then over here, click on Insert Dynamic Content, and it's going to be my loop excerpt. Great. So now I have to decide how many words that I need on this. So let's try 80. That's a lot. I mean, pretty much everything is there. That's strange. Okay, let's go. Is this even working? Number of words. Oh yeah, it's working. So I've got 10 there. So let's try 20. Okay, so we're going to go with 20. Or maybe even 15. How about that? We don't need too much information there. So now that I have that, just like before, I'm going to come over here to advanced attributes, and then I'm also going to add another one here because I want to make sure that everything can be changed and adjusted very, very easy. So my attribute class here is class, and then I'm going to now add my custom text size. So I'm going to say text large. Let's see how that looks. So we're back on our Paramount here. I think it needs to be slightly bigger than that. Okay. So let's go with text extra large. Yeah, I think that works. Okay, so like we did before, let's add our color. So this is going to be text gray 100. Yeah, I think that's fine. Let's close out of here. Now it's the button that we need to play around with. So with my button selected, I'm going to say watch now. Okay. Next, I'm going to come over here to the design tab, and we're going to go into the button itself. Activate use custom styles for button. And then let's start with our button background. So for this, just to speed things up, I'm just going to use my colors in here. So I'm just going to select that, go to my button border, go to the color here and select it. And then we need our button text. This needs to be white. So I'm going to come over here and just move this picker around. And now you can see we have our button selected. Great. All right. So we are going to come and sort out this icon thingy here. We still have time to fix that. The next thing I want to do is to remove all spacing, because ideally I want to add my own spacing scale. Now, if we take a look here at the prime, you're going to notice that when I scroll here, the space between this text here and the button is very small. And then between the button and the title, it's almost double the space between that description and the button. So this type of spacing is using a spacing scale. They don't just guess what spacing they need here. So this is why I use SiteKrafter. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into my column here, go to design, layout, and make sure I zero out everything in here. Hit enter. And then for my row, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go into design, layout, and then remove all this. Okay, so now that I've removed all that, finally, I need to go to the group as well. Go to layout and remove any spacing. Right, so now you can see everything is really, really close together. So this is a good thing. It's a good start. The next thing I want to do now, because we can't really see what is going on, we need to add a bit of contrast. So while we have group selected, let's go back to our content here and background, because ideally we want to add a background gradient here so we can see our text. So with background gradient selected, I'm going to click on this plus button, and it's on 180 degrees. So for us to see what is happening, we need to scroll down and make sure that place gradient above background image is selected. Okay, so I know it looks like there's nothing going on here. We just need to make a few adjustments. So first of all, I'm going to come to this color right here and drag this all the way to black, like that. Okay. Move on to the next one, and this is where I'm going to bring it all the way to black, but I want to add this gradient. Now, do you see already this is really starting to look nice because of the gradient? So you can adjust this, however you want, but I think I'm going to start off with this. So with that selected now, I'm going to go one by one into each and every item here and add my spacing. So I'm going to start here with that little icon list at the bottom. And let me just change my icon. In fact, you know what? I need to go into the icon itself. Where is it? Yes, icon. And we need the check mark for this. And here it is. Okay, great. So I have that. So let's go back to our Amazon thing. What does it say? Included in your Paramount Plus subscription. Okay, so for me now, I'm just going to say this is for members only. How about that? So this is for members only. Okay, now we need the spacing. So let's head over to advanced attributes, and I'm going to start adding all my attributes here. And this is my CSS class, and then I'm going to say MT. This is for my margin top. So let's try extra small. Yep, I think that works. So this is going to be my margin top size, extra small. Great. Let's move on to the button. So with the button here selected, again, we're going to come over here, attributes. I know it seems like I'm typing too much, but trust me, when you do it manually, it's going to take you much longer. So I've got my class here. So I'm going to say margin top. Now I know I used extra small earlier. So this is going to be small. Yeah, I think small works. I can even go medium here to really separate the button from, the rest of the text. Okay, so I'm going to go medium. And then here, I'm going to do something similar as well. Select this here, go to advanced attributes. And right here, I've got my attribute already, which is fantastic. So all I have to do is to say MT for margin top. And let's go medium. So now my spacing is perfect. All I have to do now is to just make sure that I have this paragraph here set correctly. So I'm going to go back in here then go to design. So what I'm going to do in this whole screen here, you can see everything is way across the screen. That's not what we want. So what I'm going to do now is to head over to sizing. Okay, because this is where I can go to the width here and say, I need, let's say, 40 characters. Now you can use percentages as well. That works fine. So you can say 40 characters, or you can even go 30 characters. You know, pretty much it's up to you. Let's do the same here. So for my text here, I'm going to go to sizing. Okay, so for the width here, it's set to auto. So let's say, oops. Okay, let's play around with this until we get it the way we want. There we go. So I think that's my sweet spot there. 12 characters. But while we have this, you also need to make some adjustments when you go to the other screen sizes. So right now I'm on my tablet, and you can see on the tablet here, you know, it's okay. It doesn't look too bad. But if you want to increase it here, you can by coming over here, then going into design, and we're on sizing. Then you can increase like that, maybe even go 38. And then on the tablet, I mean on the phone, you can just pretty much go 100%. Okay, and we can do the same for the top one as well. Go to design, text. Now it's very important you do this ahead of time, because you don't want to do this, you know, towards the end, because it's going to take you a long time. Sizing, and where are we? Okay, there we go. So we have all this now set, and it's looking great. All we have to do now is to go into our carousel, because this is where we need to go into our settings. So for our carousel settings, we're going to go in, and if you want automatic rotation, you can select that and then select the speed. Okay, so I'm going to say 5,000. And then what else? Elements, show arrows. Yes. Show dot navigation. You know, it's up to you if you want to show the dot navigation, but in my case, I don't need that. I think this comes in the way of my design. And then I can also go into my design here and set my arrows, because I want the color here to be a very close white like that, so it's visible. In fact, let's go with D6. Excellent. The other thing I need to do now is to head over to my section settings, go to design. Now here, I'm just going to show you how to do this manually. So here on the spacing, you can go to padding, set this to 0, both to the top and the bottom, so that all we have is just the slider, and then save, and then let's refresh this. Okay, now do you see that things are looking definitely much better now? Okay, let's work on our bottom section now. So for that, we are going to, oops, okay, there we go. So we're going to click on this plus button, equal columns, and let's start off with a group. All right, so in this group, we're going to have an image, and we're also going to have some text. And in fact, we need to have 2. Right, so for this text right here, I'm going to select it. We're going to come over here to advanced, and we need to go to position. So for my position here, let's set this to absolute. Okay, and then we're going to set this to the top right. I know right now there's a lot of text, but when we turn this into a loop, things will start making sense. So I'm going to go back to my group settings here, and with my group settings selected, let's head over to our loop, and then I'm going to activate my loop. So for my image, I'm going to delete that and set my featured image. So now that we have these 3 elements, let's head over to our rows and then into our column. So in our column here, we're going to set our layout and make it rows. So now you can see it is all going sideways, which is exactly what we need. Now there's two ways we could do this. We can have this title inside the image here, or we can have it, you know, just like how it is right now, and then we can just stylize this a little bit. This I know is moving away from the layout that I had created, which is this. But of course, if you want to, we can just do it this way. I guess maybe that's easier. All right, so the next thing we need to do is to just match and just make things, make sure things are lined up over here. So I'm going to go into my row settings, and I'm just going to increase my width here. So I think that's perfect. So what we need to do now is the final touches. So I'm going to come back, and this time I'm going to go into my section settings here. And for this, I'm going to go to design, spacing, and just make sure that my padding here for top and bottom is set correctly. So for the top, I'm just going to set this to 2%. And then for the bottom, maybe 10%. Okay, I think 10% may be a bit too much. Let me just do a few adjustments here. I got 19%. I don't even know how the hell that came up. Okay, the next step now is to add my background color. So I can come over here, click on this plus button, and now we have a perfect blend into our main layout. And this is just what sells the design, which is brilliant. The next thing I'm going to do is to come over here to my group settings and go to design, border, and I'm just going to add my border here, maybe even 8 pixels. I think that could work. Okay. And then finally, let me fix my text here. So that's my text. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a background color. So I'm going to come over here, and now it has a background color. So in fact, when it comes to the background color, you can choose whatever color you want. It doesn't really matter. Next, I'm going to come over here to the design, and then we're going to go into spacing, because ideally I want to add a bit of padding left and right. Oops. So let's go with 8. How about that? So it's going to be applied both sides, so everything is balanced. And then finally, it's the text. So I'm going to come over here. Text color, it's going to be white. And the size, let's try 0.8 rem. Yep, I think 0.8 works. And I think we just need to make it a bit bold and uppercase. Should we make it bold? Yes. Let's try semi-bold. Okay, our design is almost complete now. So I'm just going to hit save. And then let's refresh. And there we go. So now we have our carousel. We have our large image here, which we can cycle through. And these also link to the blog post. Of course, we haven't created the blog post, but that's what it would look like. So pretty much this is our complete design of an attempt to create something that looks like this. But of course, this has a video playing in the background, so it is slightly different. Let me know what you guys think in the comments box below. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one. Take care.